What are your highest priorities when you design a character? My highest priority in designing a character is I want to make a character who is for the people it is for, which sounds tautological, but it's just like, if you have a picture of a character, you can kind of like guess who might like that, right? And so to me, when I see a character, I'm like, this is what this character is, this is what they look like, this is what they promise by what they look like. And I want to make a character who delivers on that promise to the people who would see that art and be like, wow, that's really cool. I want to play that. I'd want to find a character that would make those people happy. That's, to me, my number one priority, is ensuring that if you see BRIAR's art, ideally you will like playing BRIAR. This is why I often talk about my regrets with ZERI, is I feel like ZERI is a character who she's not really for many people nowadays. I think she's unique. I think she's cool. I think I did a lot of like fun designs there, but I think the end results of ZERI have created a character that, you know, a lot of people who potentially could like her just aren't going to find all that much joy from, and that makes me, to me, that's rough. So that's like the number one thing I think about. One of the things I put on lower priority, and I can't wait till this gets clipped and people are like, August just loves making the game terrible, is I don't think it should be high priority to make your character perfectly balanced. I think that's actually a pretty common design trap, is to focus on balance first when making a character. Now, that doesn't mean that characters shouldn't be balanced. Balance is a very, very important part of the equation. But I think balance is supposed to come second. And what I mean by that is, one of the ways you can make a character is you can say, I'm going to make it so balanced, and then figure out what it's about, right? And I feel like when you do that, what you end up with is a character who really risks being bland or unenjoyable. Because anytime you do something crazy, you'll get the feedback, well, that's not balanced. And then it's be like, well, my most important goal is balance. And so then you get rid of the fun, exciting stuff. It turns out that, like, you know, characters need to be fun to play and characters need to do powerful things to feel good. So the ordering I like is, what can I do that's crazy? And then how do I balance it? Like, does the ordering make sense here? Like, and why that matters, right? There's a big difference between saying, how can I make something purposely balanced? What mechanics will I find that do that? Versus, how can I make something really exciting and then find ways to balance it? So that's kind of the idea there, is balance is important, but when you make it priority one, I think it results in bland characters. And so I think you should make it the thing you think about when you found the fun, when you found the special thing about the character. Then you say, wow, I found something so special. How do I make it fair? An example of this from me is working on Viego. I can tell you my process working on Viego. So Viego, I found something incredibly broken. His passive, right? Viego's passive it's crazy. It's unfair. It's nuts. You're telling me there's a character who can like literally go 0-10, and then if he just manages to stab you with his Q and you die, he suddenly has the 20-0 vein and kills everybody? Right? Like, his passive is so strong, right? And I think it would be really easy in, you know, when working on a character like that to be like, well, we can't balance this and just like, you know, pass it up or make it really weak or boring or something like that. But instead, like, my process with Viego is like, okay, I found something really strong, really powerful, and I think really fun. So what do I need to do to make it okay? What can I do to Viego to make his passive okay? And so some examples of what I did that, you know, worked out. Some I think worked out well. Some didn't work out as well and needed follow-up. He was a little OP when he came out. Well, not when he came out, but when he showed up in Pro. One of the things is Viego doesn't have on-demand defense in his kit, except for the passive, right? So it means if Viego doesn't kill someone, compared to a lot of other bruisers, he has a harder time, right? You know, if Jax is in trouble, he can dodge everything. If Yasuo's in trouble, he can win wall stuff. If Viego's in trouble, he can camo, which is good sometimes, but at the end of the day, like, he doesn't have those on-demand, really powerful defenses that a lot of other bruisers get, except if he's killed someone. And then, of course, it goes to the moon. That's one of the things that like, I was kind of like, how do I make this passive fair? Well, he probably has to be weaker without it. Another thing I did with him is, it was like, this is in the same vein, but it was like, Viego's base kit probably can't be all that amazing at proactively killing someone. It was actually pretty important that Viego wasn't an assassin on the level of a character like Zed or Talon, right? Like, if Zed or Talon see somebody low, that guy's dead. Like, that guy, like, if they're close enough, that guy's dead. Viego, he actually doesn't have the easiest time getting to someone and killing them, right? Like, his approach is fairly telegraphed. He doesn't have super long range on his dashes. His dashes don't go over, well, one of his dashes doesn't go over walls. And like, you know, his dash has a wind up, things like that. And so like, even if you're doing really well on Viego, it can be fairly challenging to be like, I see that guy over there. I want that guy to die. I'm gonna go make it happen, right? And that was another thing that like I focused on quite a bit when making him, was making sure that he wasn't like a top tier assassin pattern, because it felt like, well, that would make the pattern unfair. If you're a top tier assassin pattern and your reward for killing someone is you become them, and go invulnerable and things like that, that felt like pretty dangerous, right? So that's another thing, was like, okay, this is maybe something that will make this okay. So yeah, that's the idea. Is I think it is better to make balance a secondary goal once you've found something compelling, than to make balance a primary goal that you fit something into. Because I think when you do that, you very often risk making something bland and uncompelling and weak and uninteresting.
Looking at Camille's changes, I saw they're supposed to be power neutral. As a general philosophy, is it good to make changes that are power neutral if the champion feels better? I think she's going to feel better with W buffs because that's much more feelable than armor growth. I mean, it depends, right? Like, some champions need a certain threshold of unfeelable things to be effective at the thing that they're supposed to do, right? Like, Juggernauts, for example, have like 5 AD per level, which is not really feelable, but it is enormously powerful that every time you level up, you're getting like half of a long. So like, the answer to this one, like many other things, is it depends, right? Sometimes it can be good to make things more feelable. I personally do think it's a little bit risky to make Camille's W like a super feelable spell, because it's kind of designed to be a throwaway spell in lane. It's not really supposed to be something the Camille player feels great about, and I will say that particularly Runes Reforged, I think, changed the shape of the early game in a way such that Camille's W became a very real spell. I think things like Scorch, Airy, Comet, especially in the beginning. Nowadays, it's more just Scorch and some early game runes in general that let you have more, you know, like a bunch of AD at level 1 and like buffs to Doran's Blade and things like that. Made the W more of a real spell than it was really supposed to be. And I think that can be dangerous because the W is really not supposed to be a complete holistic lane winning spell, which is what it has often been over the past like 7 or 8 years. But it was kind of constructed to be a help you stay in the lane tool, not a help you crush the lane mercilessly with no counterplay tool. And so I think there's danger in making Camille's W feel better in some ways, in that there's just like putting more power into the W is very dangerous. Not saying we can't do it. We absolutely can. Of course we can, right? But it's just a dangerous place to put power. But it's the Worlds patch. We have a little bit more tolerance for risks like that on the Worlds patch.